the Wake Up Radio. This is the hour with Cindy Ashby. And don't forget to sign up for otwtube.com, uncensored free speech platform. I know, I know. And so we're not telling you what to do, what to say, just be you. Today, I have the best guest in the world. He is anything, everything, and everywhere. He is an enigma. Wait till you get to know who this man is. I would love for you to introduce yourself, sir.
Yeah, my name is Mudhutha Herukayu. I'm the Afarut, or the Prime Minister of the United Nuwabian Nation of Moors, Free Dr. York, and I'm just blessed to be on the Wake Up Radio show today with Sister Cindy Ashby.
Okay, so I want you to let's kind of talk about you being the prime minister of Moorish. I forgot what it's called. Naba. Why? No.
Nuwabian, United Nuwabian. It's all based on the doctrine of Nuwabu and how we should live our life and
Well,
things like that.
tell us more. I might want to join. Come on, tell me more.
Okay, so our nation was founded by a man named Dr. Malachi Z. York. He's currently incarcerated. He was kidnapped and basically held against his will for some false charges that are not true. So anyway, he actually started uh, a religious movement, but back in the '60s, or actually 1970, he was in Brooklyn, Bushwick, I believe, and he started this organization called the Ansar Allah Community, because we call him the master teacher, right? Because he knows so many things, he kind of amazes us. So uh, he spoke fluent Arabic. He also had family in Sudan. His father's tribe, I forgot the name of his tribe, but that's where he picks up all of his Arabic and that side of his family, right? So his mother was actually from Ghana, and the Sudanese did not like foreigners in their tribes. So the mother was not accepted. Uh, his mother had him at Takadori Hospital in Ghana, and he was born in 1945. So he came over here to Boston. I think he had some family from Ghana in America in Boston, and then they moved to New York. And as he was growing up, he met what's the guy's name? God, I can't believe he's from Morocco. But anyway, he's like one of the first guys to start Islam in New York. So he really grew under this guy, and then he became his own imam, and that's when he started the Ansar Allah community. I know I'm leaving out a bunch of stuff, but people are gonna get on me about this. But that's where he started the Ansar Allah community. He bought an apartment building, hustled up enough money to get an apartment building, and basically set up a kind of Islamic way of life to start with. And the master teacher said he did that because he said people lack discipline, and Islam gave people discipline, so then he could raise the pure children of Nawabu. Like the Bible says, the 144,000, even though these brothers and sisters, their heart was too tainted to be a pure heart, kind of like Christ. You know, they say Christ was a pure figure. They were supposed to raise the children of the 144,000, as mentioned in the Bible. So it all started with the Ansar Allah community that grew nationwide. But the master teacher's final goal was always to build a nation, not just religion. You know, because black folks got religion. We got religion down. We some of the most religious people on the planet. You know, but we don't have a culture. We don't speak our own language. We don't have our own customs. It's all based on what the slave master gave us. So so anyway, Nuwabu is right knowledge, right wisdom, right understanding, which leads to sound right reasoning. It's basically exercising the powers of the mind that we have as as Sumerians, ancient Egyptians, Cherokee, Blackfoot, and all the other cultures, Mayans. You know, they try to say that the Asians were the Mayans, but if you go inside the temple and look at the pictures, Asians don't have cornrows. So who is that on that temple wall? so
Here's what you
so that's basically what Babu
it's
is.
so amazing what you're doing, right? You're giving everyone their flowers. And you don't hear that every day. But I want to know, why did you join? What made you want to take this to the next level?
Well, I was on a spiritual hunt. I had questions. I had questions ever since I was 6 years old. I'll start there because I grew up in a town called Walnut, which is pretty. It's like middle class. You know what I'm saying? And I was one of the few black or Moorish kids that went to the school. Everybody else was white. This is before the Asians moved in. A lot of Asians moved into Southern California like in 88, 87. So this is like 86. So one of the kids, my parents didn't really raise me to identify much with race. It was all about multiculturalism, which we'll touch upon in a minute. But they called me black. But I looked at, as you see me now, my skin is brown. So I'm like, Dad, why they call me black? You know what I'm saying? And he's like, oh son, just go with it for now. Well, we'll talk later when you grow up, but for now, just go with black. And I just went with it because that's what my father had spoken to me, but it never did sit well with me because I don't feel like whatever a black guy is supposed to feel like. I don't feel like that, homie. You know what I'm saying? I just feel like a human being. You know what I mean? I just feel like a human being that wants to have fun and have friends and learn and stuff like that. But when I got older, and actually, no, around 7 years old, I was in no, 8 years old. I was like in second grade, 8 or 9, I can't remember. I went to a school called C.J. Morris, and one morning, my dad dropped me off, and he saw these white kids. One was in front of me, and one got behind me like on all fours, and the white kid pushed me over him, and I had an afro at that time. I was a little kid. I had an afro, and he spit in my hair and called me a nigger. And my dad saw this. I didn't even know what a nigger was at that point. I had no idea. You know what I mean? I don't even know what that is. And so my dad said he got these two little Caucasian kids and took them to the office by like he picked them up by the collar of their shirt and brought them into the office and told them, what he had just witnessed. And I'm not even front. I don't even remember that. I was so young, I don't even remember. So, but my dad told me the story many times. And so when I went to a school that was very racially mixed. There was Hispanics, Mexicans, Chinese, Vietnamese, Koreans, Caucasians. And in my class of 98, we had like the most black people that had ever seen. So at least that was a good thing. You know what I'm saying? At least there's more representation of us than all the other races. But and I went through racism there too. Not just from white people, from Mexicans and Asians. You know what I mean? Because it's the images that we put on TV that these other races like don't respect. You know what I mean? Like we're the gangsters, we're always the bad people, we killing people, we pimping out our women, we disrespect our women. So that's what they see on TV. And they hear the rap music, they hear nigga. So they say, hey, what's up, nigga? That no hesitation. Hey, nigga, nigga, what's up? Like, hey, you know what? Maybe you shouldn't be calling me that, homie. You know? but but anyway, those are some of the stories I went through. It's always one to know, like everybody else got their cultural nationality. Where is mine at? I'm just black, but there's no nation called black. You know what I mean? So I just kind of left it alone until I hit about 30. I went through my IT career, you know what I'm saying? And when I hit about 35, I said, there's got to be more to life than this. You know what I mean? Like, who am I for real? So I started to look on the internet, and I found Noble Drew Ali, the prophet Noble Drew Ali of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Started connecting with brothers on that level in California, New York, and in Boston. And but then I found out there's a lot of scams in this Moorish stuff. You got to really watch yourself. So I was listening to Canaan Land Moors. Ooh, excuse me. Canaan Land Moors one day, and it mentioned Nuwabians. I'm like, what the heck is a Nuwabian? The word even sounded funny. I'm like, what the hell is a Nuwabian? So I do a quick little Google search, and I see this black pyramid, right, with the Eye of Heru on it. And I'm like, wow, they built this? Is this some kind of 3D trick? And they actually built this city in Edenton, Georgia to kind of like replicate ancient Egypt. And I knew we were the ancient Egyptians, right? So I'm like, wow. what's going on here? And then I read that Dr. York's incarcerated, and I just got mad because they always kill or incarcerate our leaders, man. Like they always do that. So I'm pissed. I'm like, damn. So now I can't even join, you know. But luckily, somebody was keeping it alive. His name was Asal Ray Amun, and I called the number and I spoke with the brother for about a month, and then that's when I came home. You know what I mean? And let me add on to that because when I was about 19, I was getting into a lot of trouble. Right, I got a DUI, and I was hanging out with brothers I probably shouldn't have been hanging out with. And then I tried to some bank scams, right? And I got arrested in the bank, you know, just to just to keep it real, right? So I had to go to what is that? You know, when you pick up trash on the side of the freeway instead of serving a jail time. It was my first offense, so that's what I did. And I met a brother from LA, an elder. So this must have been God sent that I messed up so I can learn my lesson. But God wanted me to teach me a lesson. And this brother was from LA, very conscious dude, and he must have saw something in me because every morning he would talk to me at the pickup spot where they go pick up the workers. He would talk to me about ancient Egypt, saying that we built the pyramids, and back then I thought the Egyptians were Caucasians because that's what I heard. You know, that's these are the lies that the Caucasian is spreading. So I was like, we ain't no ancient Egyptians. He's like, brother, he's like, you coming tomorrow? I was like, yeah, I'm coming tomorrow. I'm gonna bring you a book of pictures off the temple wall, and you tell me what they are. And he showed me, and I was like, damn. So our ancestors left pictures here to show who we are. So I was like, oh, that's off the chain. And he started talking to me about health, and he started talking to me about building pyramids, right? This is in 1999, and it's funny because at the same time, Dr. York and all the rest of the Nuwabian brothers and sisters were building pyramids at that same time. Me and this brother were speaking, so it must have been some kind of divine energy. Why I was talking in LA with the elder, and at the same time across the country, they're actually building pyramids as we spoke. Um, so that I find that amazing, you know what I mean? But I know I'm rambling on here, so
No,
go ahead with your next
it's
question.
okay, right? Because you said you went through what you went through, right? And so basically, your brother approached you, and you kind of got to learn something from him. And do you feel like it's almost like with Malcolm X, right? If he had not been approached by a brother in
Yeah,
the Islam nation, right? Do you get? I'm saying, do you feel like
yeah, right, yeah,
something was it? It could have been Christian, it could have been Islam. It could. Do you get what I'm saying? But or have you looked at
right.
things?
Anything to change your life for the better. Yeah,
Right. So do you feel that way, or do you feel like this was the right fit for you? I mean, you are the prime minister, right?
absolutely. For me, speaking just for me, I feel like I've definitely my spirit came home uh, to what I am as a being. This as a being existing, breathing, and having this experience. Of just existing, coming from my mother and my father. They created me, and by the will of we say the Nakti Orwa, which is the Netaru, this in Nuwabic. But I've come to deal with, my mother died recently, and the brother who was the president of the nation, uh, he talked to me about, you are your mother. I mean, the same genetics that's in your mother is in you. Literally, she's in you. And I've never had anybody explain that to me. I'm thinking more like a Christian. You're like, oh, she's gone, she's dead, but she's not really dead. The energy never leaves, and genetically, she is in me. When you look at me, you're looking at my mama, my grandmama, on both sides, and my mother, father, going back 4 generations. So that this just the more that I'm building with people in the nation, they help me grow every day, man.
That is beautiful that you would say that, energy never dies, right? I often would say, "Hey, I'm breathing in Nat Turner every day. Like, don't F with me." That type of thing.
Right.
I'm saying, like, so and then your DNA, right? It's
Absolutely.
everyone that was before you. Like, how strong is that, right? How
Absolutely.
Ooh, you don't hear that every day. People just, "Oh, it's
Amazing.
dead and gone," and you're like, "No."
No, that's not true, but We grew up in America, going to church, and so we all heard the same stories, about the dead, and once you're gone, then you're gone. But it's funny, if you really read the Bible, Jesus doesn't say that. He says, I don't have the exact quote, but his message, when they asked, have you been here before? He said, yeah, I was here when Abraham was here, you know, and the way that I interpret that is, if you're from the same bloodline, you are that person. Literally, you are that person. You don't, and it's hard evidence. It's not like I'm making it up. You know, if you get your DNA test done, though the DNA test can't tell you who your family is without actually digging up the physical body and testing that body and comparing it against yours. Um, a lot of black people, so-called black people, will figure out that they're related to Ramesses the Third. And whatever other bodies that they're digging up, and in ancient Egypt and all across Africa and the Americas, they will tell you, you have some genetic traits of these past famous people in antiquity. So we're pretty amazing people if you really think about it, and you really get away from what foreigners are saying, because foreigners are trying to dictate who you are, in this box. They're trying to put you in this box to try to, to try to identify you, and they can't really do it because they haven't existed as long as we've existed. You know what I mean? We've been here millions of years. I think the Caucasian just showed up maybe 8,000 years ago. And they'll even tell you that. Like, how can the youngest race on the planet cannot tell the oldest race where they're from? So, not that I'm trying to be racist or anything like that. I'm not. But the facts are the facts, and they tried to marginalize us from society. From some of the things that they told us. Some of the degrading names, degrading stories, uh, calling us names. All these things that we've gone through as Moorish peoples. Uh, this is the time to correct all that stuff. And we have great scholars. You know what I'm saying? Some of the scholars, that's a whole nother story with the Greek fraternities and all that stuff. But we have great scholars that have brought us back into mankind, and into man, to be respected again. But it seems like, kind of like the younger generation, we're not reaching them with this knowledge. They're more into, lean, and doing all kind of crazy stuff, when they should be the next leaders of the world, in my opinion. But they, because I'm 42, you know what I mean? And I have a daughter who's 7 years old. She'll be 8 this year. And I haven't talked to her in a couple of years because of her mother hates my guts, right? So, but when I talk to other children, uh, their parents ain't really teaching them the right things. They're letting the school teach the children, and I'm all, that's cool, but the school can't teach the children about themselves, about their family. The school doesn't have a curriculum for that. So I kind of feel ashamed of my generation, people who look like me, or who call themselves so-called black, or Moorish, or Negro, colored, whatever the name is, you know what I mean? We haven't been teaching the offspring the right knowledge. And I think one of my goals is to actually build a school to teach um, children who they are, along with mathematics and science. And it's great to teach children prayer, meditation. You know what I'm saying? That's okay. They took it out of the schools. I think that's horrible, but um, yeah, I mean, we're just not teaching the younger generation the right thing, and then we wonder why they so crazy that they don't know themselves. Well, it's because it's our fault. You know what I mean?
Well, here's what I want to say. When you were talking about the fact that, the children want to be on the lean, and here's what I always tell people, right? Your child
Yeah,
is half of you. Your child is half of you. As crazy as
absolutely.
you got, your child is going to get just as crazy. And I really feel like it's about meeting them at their level. If it's about music, and we're going to talk about that because you do music. Do you get what I'm saying? If it's about music,
Right,
you
right.
can impact, right? It's not everyone, like how you found out you got locked up, but you got to find them where they're at. There was a lady,
Yeah.
true story, African lady. She's giving out
Mhm.
these flyers by the high school, and I'm like, "Oh, okay, you know what? I think I'm gonna have the kids do this for the summer." They're learning about
Yeah.
maps, how to draw maps, and how to archery, and I was just like, "This is amazing. Where did this African woman come from?" But here's the thing: I'm thinking one way. The children come home, and I ask questions because most parents don't. I ask them, "How was your day?" And they was
Right.
like, "So the teacher called a bunch of kids that were walking across the street nigglets." And I was like, "Nigglets?
Oh, dang! Wow,
And
that's
here's what I realized, just because she was from
wow.
Africa, she did grow up in Colorado, you know what that looks like pigmentation-wise, right? And
Right. Yeah.
basically, she hated her people. Like,
Wow.
we talk about sending our children to the enemy. She hated her people. Now
Wow.
she said there was no kids.
That's the saddest thing.
I mean, she was also friends with
That's
Ben Carson and his wife, so yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that might explain it. But that's so sad to see. I ain't gonna front. I have a sister. Well, we're half, but I don't recognize half. She's just my sister, right? And my mom is somewhat lighter than me, right? And then she married somebody, not married, but she got with somebody in LA that was very light, like really, really, really light. So my sister turned out really, really light. And my dad told me one day in high school, she came home and she told my dad that some white guy was sitting next to her, right? I hate saying white, I'm gonna say Caucasian guy. Caucasian guy was sitting next to her, right? And I guess some black people were acting up. We like to crack jokes and stuff. We got that type of energy. You know what I'm saying? And and they got in trouble. And the white guy leaned over to my sister because he thought she was white, right? He said, "Man, I'm glad we don't have to be like those people." And I'm like, "Dang, I'll be trying to tell people racism and division is real. You know what I mean? It's very real, and it could either be very harsh or it could be very, very subtle to where they don't even know that they're doing it. Very subtle. They might say something to where you may take offense to it, and they just say it in everyday conversation because they're used to talking like that. You know what I mean? I never really talk about people like that because I mean we know better. As melanated people, we know better than to say something stupid like that unless it's deliberate. There's some brothers in LA that's pretty prejudiced. You know what I'm saying? But we know what we're saying, and when we say it and we say it is deliberate. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna sit up here and say every black person just loves everybody. No, that's not true.
Well
You know what I'm
well,
saying? It,
here's a joke, right? So, my uncle in London, he's always like, "I'm tired of working for the white man." But he only dates white women. You get what I'm saying?
right, right, right. He confused.
Let it make sense.
it's so it's so hard not to though because you grow up, especially in the 80s and the 90s. The beautiful women that they show on TV. Who they show? They show Caucasian women. Sharon Stone, Liz Taylor, um, and any other Caucasian woman that I haven't named. You know what I mean? Like I grew up like Pamela Anderson. I used to love Pamela Anderson. I ain't gonna lie, as a kid growing up, because that's what I seen on TV. Or if I looked at the Jet magazine, I like them sisters in there. You know what I'm saying? But besides that, I'm talking about physically on TV. They brainwash us that way because we don't have any. Well, now we got some networks, Oprah and I don't know, stars or something. But that's not even really good enough. But
Right,
at least we
and
got some representation,
it's funny,
on TV.
I never
Oh
liked
yeah, go
Oprah.
ahead.
I never liked Oprah. Never.
Hmm.
I don't know what it was. It was an energy thing. But I was thinking about when I was growing up, right? And watching TV, and I watched a lot of TV, but for me, like the only thing that could like keep me was when I saw that like one black actor. And then I became
Mm.
interested, right? The Diane Carols, right? Just, right? It's just like, wow, opulence and just, do you get for me?
Yeah, yeah,
For me,
yeah.
I was always looking for me. I was looking for me, our people.
Right, right, right.
Yeah.
That's cool, man. I wish I was that culturally conscious when I was young, but I did get into Malcolm when I was about 10 or 11 after I saw Roots. You know,
Okay.
Roots Roots
Woo!
pissed me off, man. Root that when I seen our people went through that stuff, whether from Africa or you know what else story they don't tell is the indigenous people here were also enslaved.
Yep.
They don't tell that story though. Now it's starting to come out, but they didn't tell that back in the day.
Mm.
But when I seen Roots, man, I've
Now,
never been the same. I've never
someone
been
was
the same.
just talking about Black History Month, and I said Black History Month for me was a lot of white abolitionists. I'm gonna keep it real, right? And it was like, oh, this
Mm.
person tried to help us, and this, and so that's what I saw. So imagine watching Roots. It was like someone has lied to me. You know what I'm saying? Why are they
Yeah, yeah.
and so and so I'm in New York, right? And grew up in Brooklyn. So
Hmm.
that's what we got. And so I went, huh, that's interesting. It's very interesting. He said, why Oprah? Because Oprah could put on so much other people, but she really doesn't. And I get it. She's not in charge. That's what it means. She's not in charge. And she sold
Right. Yeah,
to
yeah, yeah.
Viacom. She sold her stuff to Viacom, which is a big, big deal. Do you get what I'm saying? It's like when
I didn't even know that.
BT sold
Yeah.
themselves, like it went right back to the very people that they say oppress us. And it's just amazing. I never wanted to be, I
Right.
feel like I am always aware of all the things we've invented. We once had a show where we
Mm.
had white nationalists and a couple of brothers that did a show. And they was like, we didn't need you slaves. We built America brick by brick. And my one of the co-hosts said, no, you mean whip by whip. Do you get what I'm saying? Because sometimes you have to remind people, well, you go your way,
Right,
my
right.
way. And they goes, we like Wu-Tang. No, we have to take Wu-Tang with us with the elevator and the escalator and the baby stroller and the potato chips. And do you get what I'm saying? Like it's not
Right, yeah.
lights for Christ's sakes, right? And I'm sure his family doesn't make a dime from it. Do you get what I'm saying? Like it's just like
Probably not.
given so much to America, so much. And so I wanted to ask you about these websites. So should we start with the first one because I wanted to know more about the holy. So
Y yeah, yeah, the holy yeah, we could start with that one.
okay, the Holy Tabernacle Ministry.org. Tell us about it.
The Holy Tabernacle Ministry, when I mentioned before about Dr. York, uh, he took us through schools of thought, right? Like he took people to show them the real facts and what really happened and what things really mean in these religions. So he took us through Islam, he took us through Mosesism, and then he took us through Christianity. You know, he gave people what they want so they would learn to want what he had to give, right? That's one of his sayings. So he gave us what we want. We wanted religion, he gave it to us, right? But what he really came to do was form a nation. So once we got done with these religious schools for the brothers and sisters who actually participated in that since the 70s, then he formed Holy Tabernacle Ministry, which is the culmination of all those organizations into one. So in the Holy Tabernacle Ministry, um, we teach about scriptures in any type of scripture too, not just the okay, somebody wants to know about the rape allegations. I know that would come up. So the Holy Ministries is built was built for the children of the 144,000, right? These are the pure children of the Natiorwo of nature, right? Not necessarily of a personified God, but of pure nature that would teach the future generations who they were, where they came from, and give them that storyteller that they never had, right? Because every culture has a storyteller to keep their culture alive. You know, an elder, a grandfather telling the grandchildren about great kings or tribal leaders or great mothers, great woman warriors, because we had a lot of woman warriors. people don't realize that there's actually a movie on Netflix called Afri- Woman King. It's called Woman King. It's actually pretty good. So the HTM is kind of like that. It's for the pure children of the Nati Orowo, and it's the children that's going to actually teach the adults their culture and where they came from, right? So it's basically a fraternity built upon the principles of Nuwabu, right, which is right knowledge, right wisdom, right understanding, which leads to sound right reasoning.
Okay.
So yeah.
No, I was trying to see what can they do when they go to that website? Is something they could sign up, subscribe?
Yeah, there is I think a members tab. I haven't been there in about 2 weeks, so I think there's a members tab. You kind of read what the organization is about, and at the end, there's actually a PDF form that you could fill out to apply for the tabernacle, and then one of the brothers will pick it up here and look at it. We'll go over it, and we'll have a follow up kind of like interview type of thing, where we kind of ask you some questions like, why do you want to join? What have you heard about the tabernacle? And just try to get a little bit more of their background and where their heart is at as far as wanting to join the fraternity.
And this is only men.
No, oh no, definitely women too. Definitely women too.
I'm just checking. All right, some things kind of.
Okay.
Oh, that's kind of dope. I do like that. I really do. Um, well, did you want
Yeah.
to address Lavelle's question, Lord Vell's question about the situation, so we could jump back into the websites?
Okay. Yeah. So the Dr. York case, Dr. York was arrested in Eatonton, Georgia. We say kidnapped May 8th, 2002 on allegations of molestation of certain I guess teenagers at the time. Now there's a website called Nuwabian Facts .com where they have the Judge Ashley C. Royal was actually over this case. He's a federal judge, and what in this case was first brought by the FBI. The FBI gave it to the state, right? The state could not prosecute Dr. York because there was no physical evidence of no DNA, no fingerprints, no even like real testimony that could even give circumstantial evidence to Dr. York touching these children. Dr. York raised a lot of children, right? Now, Dr. York does have a lot of children. He has a lot of wives. He has a lot of children. So I won't deny that. But there's just no physical evidence to point that he molested children. So what happened was the FBI really wanted to nail Dr. York. Like they wanted to nail Martin Luther King, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, Malcolm, and all these other great Moorish leaders that we had. So anyway, let me jump to the federal case. So the state couldn't do it, so the feds took over. Now the feds brought up new charges. They couldn't get him for molestation. Dr. York on record is not charged with molestation, but he was charged with the Mann Act. And they say the Mann Act, he took children from state. He didn't drive them himself, actually, it's his sister, Waikia. I forgot her government name, but they call her Waikia. She was because a lot of the parents were on the land because we had land where we had a community, right? So they were bringing some of the parents to bringing some of their children down so they could be with the parents, right? So the feds are saying, oh, well, he brought children, he directed his sister to bring children down. But it wasn't just her, it was a lot of families coming down to the land. So they hit him with the Mann Act, meaning you're crossing state lines for sexual exploitation. Now, there were some testimonies on stand against Dr. York, but then some of these people made videos recanting their testimony. The only problem was they didn't recant their testimony in court, and the feds wouldn't reopen the case. Once it was cut, it was closed, and that was it. Now, is anything possible? Yes, anything's possible. You know what I'm saying? However, there is still no physical evidence, no semen, no markings on children, boys or girls, that suggest that Dr. York molested these children. And the way that the federal prosecutors brought the case, they said he molested over like hundreds of children and made love to his wives and had babies. And he was like a 60-year-old man at that time. Like, there's no way in hell he's having sex like 30 or 40 times a day. So, so to me, is just another attack on our leaders. You know what I'm saying? Now, if he did it, I don't support that. If he did it, I do not support that. I love the master teacher, but I don't support that. You know what I mean? And touching any children, I don't support. But I don't feel like he did it because I know how the CIA and the FBI, they hate black people. I don't know if you remember me telling you about a documentary called uh, "Drugs as Weapons Against Us," and they targeted Tupac the same way. They targeted Tupac the same way. People don't know that Tupac was the head of the new African Black Panther Party, and since he was a Shakur, he was the son of Mutulu Shakur and Afeni Shakur. Now Mutulu got locked up in I think in the 80s. Now, but Mutulu was a genius. He was an organizing genius. So Mutulu was coaching Tupac and had to gather all black people across the country. But they started in California, right? Because that's where the Black Panthers started in Oakland. You know what I'm saying? So Tupac went from Oakland to LA. Now, if you remember that story back in 90, I think 95, they say that Tupac shot two off duty cops in Atlanta. Well, first of all, how does Tupac know that these people are off duty? Second of all, why did the off duty cops try to shoot Tupac with a gun that they stole from the evidence room? Right? Uh, After that happens, then they put Mutulu Shakur in solitary confinement and didn't let him talk on the phone anymore because he was coaching Tupac about how to solve the Blood and Crip problem in L.A. And then in 1990, I think 92. So this is a couple years before Tupac shot these dudes trying to kill him. There's a Blood and Crip treaty or peace, right, in LA, the truce. But as you know, the CIA doesn't want black people to have a truce. That's why they flooded the hood with crack. They flooded LA and South Central with crack in like 80, I think it was like 84, 85. Uh, so they always use drugs to destroy the community, to control the community. And then if that doesn't work, then they plan on killing you. They plan on killing you. They killed Martin Luther King. They could have stopped Malcolm X from being killed because they knew the NOI was trying to kill Malcolm, and they didn't. They just let Malcolm die because they don't care about black people at all. And they let Tupac die. They actually set up the scenario for Tupac to die. I mean, death row was filled with cops. These cops are working as covert agents. You know what I'm saying? You see them all in their blood uniforms, brimmed out. You know what I'm saying? A lot of the cops were from Compton. You know what I'm saying? Pyrus, and they're operating the drug trade from within death row. You know what I mean? And so, and the LA knew it was the LAPD knew it was happening because when Gary Russell, who was a detective with the LAPD, started doing his investigation, he asked his I don't think it was Bernard Parks at that time. I forgot who was the head police chief, but he said, "Why is there so many cops working in death row?" And he said, "Oh yeah, those are like covert agents, right?" And he's like, "Well, why are so many covert agents? What's really going on?" And he told them, "Stop investigating." And if you remember the presses when they were covering reporting on this case, they fired Gary Russell. He was getting too close to the truth. You know what I'm saying? And you know, they just don't want us to do it. They fear the rise of the Black Messiah.
No, I totally get what you're saying. So pedophile crap is not the move. it's just dead wrong. And I really appreciate you saying, like, listen, if I even knew that, hell to the no, 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 it doesn't work for me. And so
Yeah,
that's important.
I don't
But
support
I
that.
remember, I remember even with Michael Jackson, right? And I guess we don't know these people, but one of the
Right. Yeah.
Michael was that he went on interviews just trying to free himself from this. And once it's said, you can't take it back. Do you understand what I'm saying? Once someone called you up,
Yeah. Yeah. It's already in people's heads, you know.
and so everybody looks like the bad guy, even if it was like, no, he didn't serve any time in jail. People take back their statements. See, Michael Jackson, the children when they got older, they said my mother and father were money hungry. That's not what happened. Well, the man's dead and gone already, but forever people think Michael, the pedophile. I don't think that, but
Yeah.
majority of people, which is really sad. You know what I'm saying? Really.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, Michael Jackson, I love Michael Jackson. I grew up off Mike. You, to me, they can't make me change the way I look at Michael Jackson. But I will say this: he was a little weird with kids. I mean, letting them sleep in his bed and stuff like that. I'm not sleeping with nobody's
Well,
children in the bed, but
literally just watched it
but
this morning, and he said, I've never let the kids in the bed. They can sleep in their bed, but I've never had them be in my bed.
oh, okay,
So he
okay,
actually got
okay. See, okay,
I didn't know we was gonna talk about this, but I literally heard he sat there and he said, I've never gotten in bed with a child. I've never had a child get in bed with me. Now they could sleep wherever. And the reason I have Neverland is because I guess he didn't really have a childhood. He's been performing since he's 5.
right,
That's gotta suck.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, I get what you're saying, right? It's Michael was just, the fact that he bleached himself like I mean,
Well, if he,
yeah,
yeah,
it's a lot going on.
yeah. I mean, if he didn't really do that, because that's what they see. It's even in my head still. You know what I mean? Until you just told me that, I can't see Michael Jackson hurting children. You know what I mean? It's just he loved the kids. You know what I mean? He just wanted them to have fun, and if they were disadvantaged or whatever, he just wanted to let them play at Never Land Ranch or whatever it's called. You know what I mean? He, when they attack you, this is what they do. They defame your character. That's where the FBI and the CIA start.
Ugh.
They defame your character. This is COINTELPRO 101. That's Michael Jackson didn't want to play ball with something. You know, he didn't want to sell his rights to his music to Sony. He I don't know whatever else Michael Jackson was going through, but it was putting him under tremendous pressure. You know what I'm saying? To the point where he had to hire the Nation of Islam to be his bodyguards. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And Michael Jackson was speaking out about the education system. He spoke out. He was a political warrior
Mm-hmm.
in my eyes. You know what I mean?
That's all
And that's why they attacked.
but that's why they say all I want to say is they don't care about us. I play that song for hours.
They don't really care about us.
I'm
That's
telling you
right.
because it's
They don't.
so true. Everything you've learned as from a child has been upside down and backwards. Let it make sense.
Yes.
Where when you go to
Yes.
other nations
Yep.
all over the globe at flat Earth, because I don't want everybody's different. Is that if you go to Thailand,
Yeah.
there
Yeah.
is a creation story they have when the Creator first made us, we were burnt, but then the Creator remade us
Burnt.
and we were
Okay.
milk. Do you get what I'm saying? So over in Asia,
Hmm.
they bleach.
All right.
They actually bleach. I've seen people that look
Wow.
and they said they ain't white enough. Asians have told me, "I ain't white enough. You don't see how white she is?" I said, "Oh, you're looking for the geisha girl look." You know what I'm saying? You want powder. And so it's
Right.
something that's in
Yeah.
people where people don't even love themselves anymore because of any melanin. Like melanin is the sun. It is the stuff the universe is made out of that you can't figure out. Without the dark matter would be no sun, would be no stars.
That's right. That's right. I mean, and people in India and Africa, they bleach their skin too. I mean, I used to be with a Hindu girl. I was with her for 9 years. Almost got married to her. Her name was Mona, and she was a Nayak. That's a pretty big tribe in Hindustan. I call it Hindustan, not India. But she made a comment to me because she was darker than I was, which is beautiful because that's what I love. And she said, "Oh, I'm too dark." I said, "What?"
Mm,
Like, you ain't too dark. You ain't dark enough to me. You know what I'm saying? So it's this disease that this disease of mind that the Caucasian brings. I don't know, it might go deep down in Asia too, but I know the Caucasian, from my point of view, they just tell you and they depict these images on the screen like where dark is just, it's ugly, it's undesirable, it's and it's all, and the funny thing is there's no evidence to prove that. You know what I mean? Darker melanated people you know, let me go back to the early 1900s and like baseball, right? The game of baseball, right? There's 9 people on the field, there's one batter, and there's 4 bases, right? Now, Caucasian made up the game of baseball, I think. If you go back, we might have made it up. But as far as I know, they came up with the game of baseball. And so they played baseball very robotic, like with no soul. They didn't dive, they didn't jump over walls, they didn't slide. And when Babe Ruth saw the Negro Leagues, he said, God damn, he's what, I ain't never seen nothing like that. People jumping over walls and sliding, and what is out here? And he said when he played, he said he was just an average player in the Negro Leagues. He said, I'm average. But if I go back and play with these white boys, I'm gonna dominate them all. Right. And so, you know, when they brought Jackie Robinson was breaking all kind of records, you know. And this is the thing that they fear. They fear, like Public Enemy said, they fear the Black Planet. They really fear what we can do because they know back in their history, even in Europe, and on some of their family crests that they have, anywhere from Spain, Italy, all the way up to Germany, you're going to see a Moorish black face on there. And if you just go back and look, they looked at us like the gods. And the reason they turned against us is because, yeah, I mean, sometimes we didn't treat them well either. Like there's a lot of black Muslims who had Caucasian slaves. We were the first pirates, you know what I'm saying? We would kidnap English people off the coast of England and Spain, you know what I'm saying, kidnap Christians and bring them back to Morocco to be sold. So the same thing you've seen that happened to us, like in Roots, you've seen us on the slave auction block being sold. We did the same exact thing to them hundreds of years earlier, and that's why they hated us so much. They wanted to take revenge against us, and they did. I give them that. They did. You know what I mean? But they took it a step further. They tried to cover up all of our history. You know, they tried to say that your history just starts on a slave ship. You know what I'm saying? When we found you, it's like the Caucasian had this science experiment and just created the Negro on this slave ship. You know what I mean? And so,
Wait,
so this is
I do have a question.
yeah,
I know people say there was no slave ships because this, it's like when you go to the museum, you see the damn dinosaur bones and whatever, but there's no slave ship that. And I often think about what my dad said when I was little. He said, "Baby, there was Pangea. Everything was connected. We were everywhere, all at once, not just in Africa." And so a lot of people are indigenous to certain places. I'm from Grenada, right? So in my head, there's a calypso singer that sings like Columbus lied, Columbus lied. Apache was here already. Do you get what I'm saying? So, but
absolutely.
everyone has different culture. And so for me, a lot of the times I think I've been insulted by Black Americans. You know what I'm saying? Like, da 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 da.
So have I.
And I'm like, why are you upset? Like, don't be upset with me. And I get it, right? Someone took you and dropped you and no one came back to get you. At least I have a place where I can say, well, my family's been here, right? And, they live and they die for Grenada. And so it's just so much hurt because everything's been whitewashed and wiped away. It really sucks
Mm-hmm.
because you don't really know the truth and they don't know nothing about Pangea. They don't know do you get what I'm saying? Like they don't know, people don't know their
Yeah, yeah,
grandfather. They don't know their grandfather. You know how painful
yeah.
that is?
That's sad.
I would
That's
be nothing
sad.
without
Yeah.
my grandmother. I would be nothing without them old aunts. I'm sorry, I don't call them old, but you know what I'm saying? Like they have so much
Yeah,
knowledge.
yeah.
And so some people don't have that. There was a point where when we were growing up, there were children that was put in front of the TV. And that's how they learned. Nobody spoke to them. They don't know nothing. Everything is the TV. Now, I would say entertainment is a distraction, but also if you pay real attention to certain things, they hide certain things. They don't really hide it because the first rule of Luciferian is to hide it in plain sight, right? So, it's like
Absolutely.
actually
Yeah,
reading
yeah.
different religions, getting to understand. And there was a point where I have not read a whole bunch of African um history. I know what I know, but for me, it's me understanding who I'm out here with. So I'll figure out about,
Right.
I know Trump's history. I know how they made money. I know about this one. Do you get what I'm saying? For me, I'm trying to,
Right.
well, I just go for psychology, but I'm trying to understand why they act like this, why they treating us like this. I'm good with mines. Do you get what I'm saying?
And you're
I
talking
want,
about Black Americans, right? Yeah.
yeah. So I don't know. Where are you from, brother? You're from here.
Yeah, I'm from here. I'm Cherokee, what they would call Cherokee, Aniawea. So my people go back to North Carolina, in the what they
How far can
call,
you,
huh?
how far can you go back?
I could go back to my great grandmother.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that's
That's
that's as far as I go back. Then after that, things get kind of generalized. But yeah, my grandfather told me I was Cherokee, and my dad did too. And on my mom's side, they're also Cherokee and Choctaw, like Louisiana, kind of like Mississippi tribal people. So and Mardi Gras, the Mardi Gras Indians are there too. Actually, Master P is a Mardi Gras Indian. Um, so Black Americans, like when okay, like I guess I look a little different than a lot of Black people. I don't know. I think I look similar, but I was kicking it with this when I was like 22 years old, and I was kicking with my Panamanian homeboy Jason Paez, and he had a Mexican homeboy named Jerry. Right, we're all kicking it, just cooling out, kicking it, drinking some beer, and this brother. I don't know how Jason knew this brother. He was from Pasadena though, and he was talking tough one night, right? So Jerry was with the business, man. Like he's not one dude you want to be trifle with, and so brother was talking all crazy, and oh, I think I lost. Okay, well,
you
I'll
ain't
go
lose.
ahead and.
You keep going. I wanted to make it about you.
Oh, okay, okay. I thought I lost you. So the dude started talking about, yeah, I can have my tank dogs roll up and blah 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 blah. And I'm sitting there, I'm just laughing like he don't even know who he's talking to, right? So and I'm just laughing, right? I'm laughing at this dude, right? And he's like, brother, he's all, I don't even know what you are. I was like, what do you mean you don't know what I am? Are you black or what do you think, bro? He's like, yeah, I think you are. Then why would you even ask some dumb stuff like that, man? You know what I mean? But a lot of people thought I was Panamanian. A lot of people when I was younger thought I was Puerto Rican, but I'm not Puerto Rican or Panamanian. Though I love Puerto Ricans and Panamanians. I'm not. I'm Aniawea. I'm Cherokee. So um, I haven't gotten too much slack from I guess the Negro or Black Americans. But when you start claiming that you're tribal, you know what I'm saying, to Turtle Island, only because that's what you learn from your grandparents, that's how you learn, or your parents, that's how you learn who you are, not from some book that you read. It has nothing to do with a book. It got to do with your bloodline. And your bloodline can't be put in no book. Can be reported in a book, but you can't put your blood in a book. So, a lot of people will say, "Oh, you just hate yourself. You just don't want to claim that you're black." And I'm like, that sounds like you got a problem with who I am, brother. You know what I mean? Like you could be, if you think you from Africa, you're not gonna hear me say, "Oh, you think you from Africa." Though I will probably tell you I would do some research on that, and I would ask, who did you hear that from? Because you didn't hear that from your parents. Most 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 people my age or younger, right? They say they're from Africa, like Dr. Umar Johnson. Perfect. I love Dr. Umar Johnson, but the whole I'm from Africa thing, I'm like, well, what tribe are you part of? What
Mm,
what language do you speak? Uh,
mm.
why aren't your tribal elders here with you on this journey in America? Where are the African tribe members? And people from Africa don't call themselves African. They're Ghanaian. There's from South Africa. They're from Morocco. That's like, it's not like America. We say we're Americans. You know what I'm saying? Because it is one country. It's made up of different states, but Africa has different countries, thousands of languages and thousands of tribes. Which
50
one are you?
54
Oh,
diasporas. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Which one are you? And then don't get mad at me because I say I'm an indigenous American because you believe in the pictures that the Caucasian put out of what an indigenous American looks like, and it's an Asian. It looks
Mm,
like an Asian, right? And Asians have been here for a while. They've been here for thousands of years, but we're even before they are. We've
that's
been
right.
here for like you said, Pangea. We call it Ganawa, right? But we were here millions of years ago when the land was one. We were over here when the continent broke apart. We just stayed here.
Mm. The Asians did a test, a DNA test. They wanted to find
Hmm.
out where the first Asian came from. Man, that man was like, uh, "It looks like we come from African people." He was just like not enthusiastic at all because he just thought their DNA was so separate, and it was like, "No." Like Shakira say, "We're all African," that type of thing. You know what I'm saying? He was not
Right, right.
happy with that, and so no, when you're talking about that, I think about the fact that on my father's side, my father goes, as an Ashby, he says, "Oh, one of your cousins, he tried to do a deep dive where we're from," and he says,
Hmm.
"I think we're from the Igbo tribe." I said, "Oh, okay, all right," and then
In
I go
Nigeria,
and then I go to my mother's side and I ask my grandfather, he goes, "I'm from here. I'm indigenous here. I'm not
yeah.
African, right?"
Hmm.
I got both sides.
Hmm.
Like, what am I gonna tell someone I don't believe you? You gotta kind of listen to your grand folks. You know what I'm saying? One side is
Yes.
something and the other side is something else. So I just respect it. Someone took the time to dig deep and someone
Right,
stopped
right.
was, but then somebody else went somewhere else. And so you know, but you can't be upset that somebody knows where they're from and you're upset at them talking about you must not like yourself. I don't even understand how someone could make their mouth to even be so disrespectful.
Ye- Yeah, I don't know. I don't. Yeah, I never did get that about a lot of black people. This to try to dictate where you're from. Like I always tell brothers and sisters, like, well, do you know my mama? Do you know my daddy? How are you gonna dictate where I'm from, and you don't even know who I am? That don't even sound right. Come on, man, use your brain, man. Let's build, brother, because we got to start asking ourselves a lot of questions about where we came from, because we're damaged, right? We're a damaged people, and that's why Dr. York was trying to raise the pure children of the Nati Oro to say, hey, these children have not been tampered with, their soul has not been tainted by the Caucasian, because we raised them the right way. You know what I mean? And so when I talk to people like that, Sister Cindy, if they get emotional and stuff like that, like, oh, you just don't want to be black, brother. I'm like, you're right, I don't want to be black, but that's my right as a human being, right? You trying to force me into a situation where you want me to lie to you. You know what I mean? Because my grandparents, sometimes they use the word black, they would, but they will also say Cherokee. They would also say Cherokee. So it's a lot of confusion there, because even in my mom's uh, our family reunion we had about 15 years ago in Oklahoma, where we walked the Trail of Tears. You know what I'm saying? They'll I forgot what this thing is called. Oh my God. Okay, but anyway, it says on our documents it says that we're half black and half Cherokee, which don't make sense, because how are you half black and half Cherokee? That doesn't make sense.
And let me tell you, let me
Cherokee.
tell you this. Let me tell
Okay.
you this. So my name is Cindy Ashby, right? And so as I'm trying to figure out, trying to go down this rabbit hole as to what happened to us, I find a Walter Plecker. But wait, his name is
Oh yeah,
Walter Ashby Plecker. And I goes, oh
the
God, this guy,
infamous.
right?
Yeah,
He was just a straight Anglo-Saxon white supremacist. And he went down
eugenist.
He went out there and he said he looked at you and he goes, you look, I'ma split him up. Imma say, even if you were dark skinned, I'm gonna say, no, you look like a Negro. And then Imma say, oh, you got like a little silky. Okay, Imma say you're Native American. Do you get what I'm saying? Like he went down
Right, right.
everybody, and it's been like that, divide and conquer, like for so long.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
from the same tribe, but somehow I get called one thing and you get called something else. How freaking messed up is that?
Absolutely, absolutely. The weird thing is if you look in the Black Laws Dictionary under free white persons, you'll see that people from North Africa are considered free white persons. And there was a case where a brother from Egypt, Egypt is majority Morenos, black, but they don't show you that on TV because they're also racist over there. But a brother came over here from Egypt and applied for his naturalization to get into the U.S. and and they said he was white. His brother was chocolate. I mean, he was dark. He said, "No, no, no, no. I'm not white. I'm black." And the people said, "No, no, no. You're a free white man." And he did. He tried to fight it. He even went to the Supreme Court and tried to fight it. But if you look in their book that they wrote, they acknowledge it's them acknowledging their forefathers. You know what I mean? It wouldn't make sense that these Freemasons, because this is a Freemason country, whether you like it or not, the Freemasons praise Egypt. They praise the black god in secret. You know what I mean? If you go to a lot of Masonic lodges, you will see black people on that wall. Or they might have a room that's very excluded from the rest of the members, where only high ranking members can go. You will see black people in there. Imhotep, Zoser, Natiarchet. You're going to see a lot of our people on the wall, but they don't want to tell you that publicly because they praise Satan and Luciferianism, like you just said. So a black professor who was labeled as white. Yeah, another thing, because I'm kind of a scholar, I'm a nerd too. So I'm into poetry, right? So I was actually trying to write these poems, and I was reading some old English poems, right? And I couldn't believe I ran into this. I don't remember exactly what the poem was because I don't read old English like that, but it had the word white in there. But the word white was spelled Wight, right? Like light and fright. They don't know how to spell their words. So I looked up this word. I'm like, white. Why is it spelled like this? My curiosity got the better of me, and I looked it up, and it said white equals a human being, a creature, a human being. So I'm like, wait a minute. Is this why they use the term white person? It really ain't got nothing to do with your skin color. It's how they label you in the legal system. And the opposite of white in their language is black. So then black means something horrible. If you look up the etymology of the word black, and I'm not saying that we're horrible people, because we're Moors. First of all, I believe we're all Moors. That's the term I use. Or melanated people. I don't like the word black because of what it means. It means like, oh, I had a black day. Like today looks very black. It's a very negative word. And when I hear so-called black people trying to say, you know, I understand what they're trying to say when they say, oh, black is beautiful. Yes, as a melanated person, you are gorgeous. You know what I'm saying? You are gorgeous. You are the cream of the crop. You are the mother, especially for women, melanated women. You are the mothers of many, many, many civilizations, kings and queens alike. However, when you start stepping into court, you know what I'm saying? You start using that word, and it's very hard. Even I still say it. I've said it a couple times in this program because that's the way I can relate to our people. However, I know the true meaning of the word black, white, and I know why the Caucasian labeled himself white and labeled us black. This is before the 1500s. There's no such thing as a white person or a black person. They institutionalized that with the transatlantic slave trade. They started because they knew in their mind, how could you enslave somebody who's free, who's a human being? You can't do it. You can't do it. You can't enslave somebody who's a human being. So what they did was, when they got the Moors out of Spain, notice right after the Moors got out of Spain, they came over to the Americas, right? 1492 is when the Moors were finally defeated in Spain. Right after that, Columbus comes to America. Why is that? Because we gave him the knowledge that there was a new world over here. Well, for them, it was a new world. For us, we're like, oh, is this, some of our genetic cousins that live in, the Caribbeans, and there's large, the continents of North and South America. So when they discovered this, some of the more sold out. Some of our people sold us out, right? So they brought us over here. So they brought the European over here, the Caucasoid, and he did horrible things, right? He did do horrible things to us, right? Which I'll put it like this. He did horrible things, but I think for 500 or 400, 500 years later, that we're still suffering, at least from mental slavery, it's very unnatural. You know what I'm saying? Because black people aren't the only people on this planet that were enslaved, right? Like I had a lot of Chinese friends growing up. Some of their tribes were enslaved. Uh, Indian people from India, some of them were enslaved. The Slavics, that's where the word slave comes. The Slavics were enslaved by Western Caucasian Europeans. You know what I'm saying? The Moors enslaved Spanish people, Portuguese, some of the French, some of the English, right? And then, of course, we were also, some of our people were enslaved, not as a whole race of people. Some black people have never been enslaved, never. But imagine that, right? Some of us have never been enslaved, right? So when you
Wait,
start
when you
think,
s when you
yeah. So
say
when
imagine that, when you're in school, they teach you about slavery, right? It's second grade. They're teaching about slavery. It's February, and I run home to my grandmother. Grandma, tell me about slavery. And she says, I don't know anything
yeah,
about slavery. And I says, your mother was a slave? She says, my mother doesn't know anything about slavery. And I'm like, well, what are they teaching me? She said, I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but it wasn't for every, like, not every
right,
person, melanated, color was a slave. And I was like, damn, okay.
yeah. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous to think about. It's the spell, right? It's the Luciferian spell that you tell the people that you've conquered that you guys were just meant to be slaves. And the excuse that they used was the curse of Ham, right? Because Ham looked at his father Noah's nakedness, and now your whole race of people, excuse me, your whole race of people are enslaved, right? Which was a lie, because the curse is on Ham's fourth child, Canaan, who turned out to be an albino born with no melanin. So that lets you know that the creator looks at having no melanin as bad, right? But they tried to flip it and reverse it, and they made us ignorant because they didn't even let us read books. So they didn't want us to find what I'm telling people now in those books back then, because how could you enslave a people if they know that they were kings and queens and they're much greater than you are? It would be impossible. Then they would kill you. They would rise up and kill you one day. No matter how many guns you had, how many slave catchers, they would rise up and kill you. And the white man knew this, and I'll give the Caucasian man this. He devised a scheme to take over education. He made sure he took over education because in the mid 1800s, before the Emancipation, schooling was done at home and mainly through the church. It was the Christian church, the Mormons, the Christians. We would all teach our own children. And actually, back then, the black family was more tighter back then, way tighter than it is now, because we needed each other, right? So now, after the emancipation in the 1880s, this is when you start having the Department of Education, right? Department of Education took over all the education, and they set the curriculum about what the children were going to learn in school.
Wait,
Now, of
what
course,
you're leaving out is that
okay,
John D. Rockefeller put all this money in because he said he wanted a nation of workers, not thinkers.
absolute.
Mm.
I forgot about that. Yeah, Cindy, you're
No,
absolutely
that's
right.
okay. I'm
So
following you. I'm there with you. Go, brother. Go.
Okay, okay. Yeah, a lot of wealthy philanthropists chipped in to enslave not only their own people but us too. So they took over the education system for that reason that you said, and particularly for us to give us a curriculum that would, since you're free physically now, we're going to make sure you're enslaved mentally and spiritually. So we'll give you Christianity, our version of Christianity, and we'll give you our version of education, right? So they already had some of us brainwashed to were like, oh, go to the white school, you'll get much better education, just like it is now. If you go to the white people and get schooling from them, you'll be smarter and you'll be better. Now, in their system, you will be smarter in their system, though. As soon as you try to form your own system to reflect your people's values, you will be devalued in their system because they don't want that type of black person thinking for themselves, like like the Nation of Islam, Malcolm. They fear that. They don't want that. So with the education system, you'll see over the past century, there was religion in school. There was praising the flag in school. Like, I don't really care about praising the flag, but it's better than, I guess, praising nothing. To have pride in something is better to have pride in nothing. And you'll see that they don't really teach you anything in school now. They don't teach you about money. They don't teach you how to run a business. They barely teach you about math and science now. The United States is one of the worst countries for public education, and you only learn one language. Most schools across this planet, you learn a minimum of three languages. And that's all part of the curriculum because that's how they keep you in control. They don't want you to speak a language that they can't understand, because who does that give the advantage to? It gives the advantage to you, right? Uh, when you speak another language that they can't understand, they become very fearful. They think you might be plotting against them, and that's their own guilty conscience. I don't know if you remember. I think it was a stand up with Martin. He said, "Oh no, it was Jerome. He was playing Jerome in the Martin show, and he said, man, you got more tears than a white man got fears." you know, because they fear us. They're on edge about our melanated people. They know one day the table is going to flip in this era. It's already been prophesized that we're in the sun cycle now. We were in the water sign Aries. Is it Aries? I forget,
Uh,
man. But we're in the sun cycle now
Cancer.
in the equinox.
Cancer.
Do you know? I
No,
forgot.
no, I saying Cancer, water sign, Cancer. That's what I heard. I heard
Oh, okay,
the Earth
okay.
was born during Cancer time, and it's the water sign. Water has memory.
Right. Okay. Okay. But that was the water sign was supposed to be like a physical, where things were really physical. That it was the age of like materialism, right? That's where you had the industrial era, mass manufacturing, drug manufacturing. This was the era of physicality. And then in 1970, we went into a more spiritual time. That's why you're seeing people, the new age religions, some of the music back then reflected this new spiritual wave, and that's all caused by nature. That's why we need to be tapped into nature instead of tapped into what the Caucasian wants us to be tapped into. You know what I mean? Because he's a very unnatural being, right? That's why he couldn't really create his own music. We had to create music, and then he just copied it off of us,
I promise you.
or the way that
And
we dance. You
so
know,
one of the things that when it comes to music, I think about Beethoven, right? Beethoven was a
Mhm.
brother, right? And so someone took his music and they're making money off of his music today. He just wanted to be included, right? He wanted to meet the
Right?
people. He wanted to perform. And I think, it's just painful to know what history is. And then they whitewash. They whitewash, right? Even
They whitewashed
even
it.
Jesus was white,
Absolutely.
right? But that's Caesar Borgia, right? And so
Yep.
it's like, come the frick on.
Yeah.
Like everything that's good, you're gonna take it and then slap your color on it. Do you get what I'm saying? It's like, damn, like why not?
Right. Right.
When you was talking about school, I'm always telling people that, even like when my son's 16 now, but like when he was in second grade, he would say to me, yeah, the teacher said, 2 plus 2 is 4. And I put it, and she gave me a 65. But she gave Raheem 100 because he said 2 plus 2 is 5. And I go to school, and another African teacher, right?
What?
My luck, right? And
Uh-huh.
I let her talk. How's he doing? I said to her, listen, um, what is this where he only gets 65 for the right answer? She says, he didn't show it. I said, well, why did Raheem get it right? He put 5. Oh, because he showed how he got 5. And I said, what the entire Fraggle Rock are we dealing with here? Do you get what I'm saying? I'm like, are you serious? You
That
want
makes no
you want
sense.
you want him to let me tell you, have you ever been to the store and the cash register is broken, and you give them like a $10 and something costs $6 and they give you back $15, and then I go, no, but
Oh yeah, I've had that happen. Yeah,
oh, baby,
yeah.
my daughter gets mad at me. Mommy, just take it. Well, if I see it, I know you're gonna get fired. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, I'm not that person. It's not
Right, right,
in my pocket. I told her, if
right,
I see it, it's only right. That's just the way I am. That's how my grandmother raised me to kind of say, hey, babe, you make
right,
a mistake. You're supposed to give me back $4. This type of thing. But no, it's really bad out here. If you can't press the McDonald key, oh, what do you want? No, we don't have
right.
ice cream. Okay, I gotta press ice cream. I gotta press. And I told somebody this is why I only lasted 2 weeks at McDonald's. Because and I wasn't even in the forefront. I was over there with the children playing, in the balls and stuff. I was
Yeah,
to Long Island because I was going to college up in Westbury. And I was like, okay, I need something to do. And I go there. And let me tell you, the whole staff, because it was Hicksville, Long Island, it was a white staff. And they said, oh, we're gonna put you over there where the kids play. And I said, okay, this is cool. And there was cookies and children were screaming, and it was cool. And
yeah.
I go in and they go, we need you to clean the balls. Somebody peed in there. I said, wait a second.
Oh,
I come in
oh,
at 5
oh.
p.m. Somebody peed at 11 a.m. And y'all waited for my black ass to come in here to what? Man, I ain't wiped them damn balls. Everybody,
Oh, yeah, that's wrong.
that is wrong. Cause I was like, y'all literally had a staff of a whole bunch of white kids, and then y'all want me to do it. No, I didn't do it. And I kind of just left. And I remember them saying, we're not going to give you your last check, which was like $30. Your last check if you don't bring back your uniform. Man, I still got that uniform. To hell with the $30.
Yeah, yeah. The heck with them, man. Yeah,
But
that's
no, I
that's
want
some that's some prejudice shit.
it really is. Wait, I want to ask you about UNMM.net.
Oh, that is the national website where I got some blogs on there. Other brothers have wrote blogs, and we have our calendar on there. Um, Dr. York instituted a calendar that kind of more replicates ancient Tamare, which people will call ancient Egypt. Egypt just means burnt skin for the Greeks who were there. When the Greeks invaded what they're calling Egypt, it was too hot because they're from a more colder climate in Greece, or really Helena, right? They called themselves the Hellenistic people, not Greeks. Greek means I'm not sure. Literally, it means I'm not sure. So they went into Tamaray and they had no melanin, so they got burnt. So they called themselves Egyptians, right? But UNNM.net and that calendar you see on the homepage, that is an attempt to accurately tell time for our people. So it's calculated by mathematics and implemented by a web developer in India, right? A guy named Umesh that I've been working with for years, and I came up with some of the mathematics. Some I had to reference books for what Dr. York did, and so I'm not sure if it's totally microsecond, like accurate, but it is accurate. It does tell us our month. We have 19 months with 19 days in each month. 9 representing 9 ether. 9 ether is the most potent gases in the universe because the highest number is 9. All other numbers are combination or combo numbers, you would call it. And as somebody you would say who's black, we would say they were 9 ether, meaning they can take energy and convert the sun's energy at the highest rate possible for any living human being, right? That's why we have melanin. That's why our hair curls. No other race hairs curls or Some races do have dark, very dark skinned people. Like if you go to India, uh, there are some people that are extremely dark. I mean, extremely dark, right? So,
You said
but we wouldn't necessarily call it.
what you said about Kamala again? I'm being funny because
Oh, someone
her
talking about
mother's
Kamala.
from South India. Her mother's from South India, and that's how she grew up.
uh,
She grew up in a
yeah,
tribe where women rule. And so when people go, "Oh, Kamala's black," I goes, "Kamala's not black, baby. Kamala's not black." Do you got what I'm saying? So some people just don't.
right,
Because
yeah,
like you said, you're Cherokee Indian. Where I come from, we're West Indian.
right, yeah.
You get what I'm saying? So,
What? Right, yeah, yeah. But I understand where they're coming from. 'Cause, it's about understanding people's plight, but they also have to understand your point of view. Everybody, it's the whole thing is this with that. You got your Pan Africanism, right? Uh, like Dr. Umar Johnson, Dr. Henry Clark, Dr. Ben Yakinen, and I love those brothers. I love those brothers, right? But when you start coming off saying that we're all African, I got a problem with that because I've never even been to Africa. We don't claim that we came across the transatlantic slave uh, trade, and you can't fight for all black people across the planet. There's too many of us, like a billion of us, like a billion and a half black people, man, or nine ether, more. So you can't really you can't really say that, you know what I mean? Now, if you want to teach us some history about certain people, you want to talk if you like African people, you know what I mean, and you want to talk about the trend, that's cool. I respect that. But I'm not included in that story because my forefathers and foremothers, we don't know anybody in Africa. And in the time that they're talking about, we were already here. You know what I mean? So we kind of look at our reality different based off of our community. It's not really based off some foreigner story. You know what I mean? And who the first person to ever come up with the theory of everybody, all black people from Africa, is by Melvin Haskovitz, right? He came out with a book called the Out of Africa Theory, where he theorized that we all came, if you're dark skinned, you all came from Africa. You know what I mean? And then he worked with another professor who was training him on this, Frank Boas, to push this as an academic curriculum, right? But notice how a theory is not a fact. You know what I'm saying? As Nuwabians and people of the Holy Tabernacle Ministry, we study factology. We don't study myths. Myths is like a Greek thing, or fantasies. Fantasy is a Latin word. You know what I mean? We don't really study fantasies and myths. We study concrete evidence of things that really happen, which are greater than myths and fantasies. So when I hear these smart brothers talking about the transatlantic slave trade as if they came actually from a tribe in Africa that fell victim to that, it makes me ask some questions, and questions, they'll probably get upset that I ask, but the questions only lead to the truth. And I'm about the truth. I'm not about pushing some out of Africa theory, you know what I mean? Or some agenda. I don't have an agenda. My only agenda is to tell people the truth, you know what I'm saying? And try to form a camaraderie and a community around Nuwabu. That's what I'm trying to do, and talk good things about Dr. Malachi Z. York, because I know what they did to him. You know what I'm saying? Like they do to a lot of us, man. Um, so it's and a lot of black people, a lot of black people are like this, right, Cindy? Like when Dr. York was out giving speeches, entertaining people, for his people that weren't students, black people like to be entertained. Oh, Dr. York great, but as soon as he gets arrested, oh, I knew it. I knew it. I knew it. I knew he was doing that. Gossip, the gossip kicks in. My mama was the same way, I knew it. I knew something was wrong with him. And I'm like, we got to stop doing that. We got to start supporting each other. That the white man system is built for the white man. He created the system. He created the unnatural laws that go along with it. We got to form our own court system. You know what I mean? because we would abide by the laws of nature, not by the, like this child support thing. Like I think we talked about in the phone. I mean, some people need to be on child support. But the government doesn't need to be butting into your family saying, how you should raise your child. That's up to you.
Well,
You know what I mean?
it also depends on how a lot of us are raised, right? And so my grandmother would say to me, "Listen, if you laid down and you made the baby, you were in agreements. No need to go to the court or go get the cops or go get anyone." You get what I'm saying? Because
Right.
figure it
Right.
out, and if you can't figure it out, that's just something between you, this child, and the mother. And so she used to always tell the women, the girls in the family, and the men. Like, listen. So when a woman would say, "Oh, I'm put him on child support," she'd be like, "Let me talk to you for a second. I need you to remember where you come from. I need you to remember who babysits. I need you to
Right.
remember not disrespectful because if no one is saying this in your family, you think it's natural. I remember the first time my mom and my dad
Right.
broke up and someone tells her, "Oh, take him to court." And my grandmother had to, "I'm gonna need you to stop. Remember, I moved you in when you were 16, you had her at 17. Nobody, do you get what I'm saying? Because sometimes you got to remind people.
Right. Right.
At
Right.
the end of the day, I think there's no such, like you said, your baby mother hates you. Like, that's insane, right? The
Yeah.
love is so much
It-
wants to destroy you, right? Let it make sense. And how do you take someone away from their child? Because daughters need their fathers, boys need their fathers, period.
absolutely.
I don't care if I can't stand you. Come over here and get these damn children. Do you get what I'm saying?
Right. Right. Right.
Anytime.
And I would love to come by and get my daughter anytime, anytime, any place on the planet. I would love to come by and pick her up.
You know what this creates?
My thing with that is I'm like your grandma. So I believe in handling things within the family without the intervention of the Caucasoid. And she's Filipino from the Philippines, and so they kind of look at the white man the same way, like he's God, and his court is the judge is God. A lot of people look at like that judge and the child support. It's not even a judge; it's a hearing officer. They still look at this person like they're God, and I don't look at it that way. This is a mortal I'm standing in front of. You know what I mean? And this mortal cannot tell me how to raise my daughter. It's even in the Constitution. She cannot tell me how to raise my daughter, especially if I'm not on drugs. I was an IT engineer back then, so I was making good money. I had my own spot. I had 2 cars, whatever. You know what I'm saying? I was doing my thing, and I'm still doing my thing. But back then, I felt no need to have a third party tell me how to raise my child, and so I had to do some research about it because most men just fold up and give up. Oh, I want to see my baby, and I said that's cool. Every man has a choice to make, but do you want your daughter to really see you broken down because you got to give up so much of your salary to the baby's mom or to the wife or whatever, and you just look like a broken down, weak man in front of your child? I refuse to do that. You know what I mean? I rather call me messed up, but I rather wait to see my daughter and as a strong man and teach her strong values than to be a weak man and then she go and marry some weak dude that can't take care of her, doesn't stand up for his morals, has no principles, and is easily beaten down. I'm like, nah, I ain't going in front of my daughter like that. I'm a Nuwabian man. I'm strong. I'm a warrior. I'm a tribal warrior. It is not going down like that. So, and I also refuse to let my daughter be used as some kind of stock certificate to make money off of. I'm not going to let her life be used like this. So I fought those bastards tooth and nail, and I won. Right now, if my baby moms ever listens to this, me and you need to get together and, reconcile because it's been a couple years now that I want to see Zindra. You know what I mean? Because that's my daughter. You know what I mean? But I want her to see a strong image of a strong man, not someone who's beaten down. He ain't got no money in his pocket because he's giving it all to the baby moms. I told you before, offline that she liked to go to the club and stuff and date dudes and have sex with dudes because that's kind of how we met. So I know her MO and I refuse to participate in that. I refuse to participate in that. Because she was telling me that, oh, they told me I'm going to be able to get a new apartment. And I'm like, well, how are you paying for this apartment? Oh, well, you're gonna help pay. And I said, I'm not going. No, no, I'm not. I'll die. I told her I'll die before I do that. I'll quit my job. I'll die. You will not. If you want a new apartment, I'll help you get it. But this is not the way to do it. You trying to. And it's really like women. They say some, not all women. I'm definitely not saying all women. So don't misquote me here. But they say a woman who's hell knows no fire like a woman scorned or something like that. And she's one of them that she just did not like the way we broke up. So I'll just leave it there. But this whole child support thing and this the government butting in on your life, they just want to rule you, man. They just want to take over your life, and especially if you're melanated, man, we are under attack seriously by the CIA, the government, the welfare system, the courts. I mean, it's crazy, man. The more research that I do, we really need a nation of our own. Now, if it's not the United Nuwabian Nation of Moors, that's cool, but form your own nation because I'll tell you this story real quick. I live in a town called Dolan Springs, small town, but it was mostly a Caucasian back in the day and electricity. So I met this Caucasian guy named Steve, and the first time I went to his house, he's flying a Confederate flag, right? So I'm like, whatever. You know what I mean? It's it doesn't really bother me as long as you don't disrespect me. I won't disrespect you type of deal. And so he actually ended up being a cool guy. He actually fixed some of my electricity here, and went by his house. And this was when I used to kind of drink beers. I was at his house drinking a beer, and I was talking about Nation of Islam. I was talking about all that stuff, right? I didn't care if it was at a white guy's house with with a Confederate flag, right? We were still cool, you know what I mean? And his wife, uh, I forgot her name, but she was a very nice lady. She said, "Mudhutha, let me stop you for a second." She said, if black people don't like the way that the government is treating you," and she was from Canada too. She said, "Why don't you guys form your own nation?" And I said, "Wow, I'm surprised you said that, but yes, that's what I plan on doing. No offense to anybody, but yes, we need our own nation. It is part of the Declaration of Human Rights that every human being has a right to claim their own nationality and their own nation. And for the fact that we kind of haven't done that, on a whole, we could form one nation or we could form many right here. It doesn't really matter, and we could form alliances and rely on each other for our survival. And for the fact that doesn't happen, it's because we've been infiltrated so badly that they don't want us to go anywhere. We're their form of entertainment. We're their form of creationism as far as the artistics and the art goes. We've invented many things that the Caucasian utilizes and owns to this day. They don't want us going anywhere. They want to keep ownership of us right where we're at. You know what I mean? And they will never tell you that to your face, but behind closed doors, these Freemason, Luciferians, and all that, they discuss this. Trust me. And they don't want us forming our own nation. But it's inevitable and it's granted by nature that these things will happen. The Caucasian cannot go against nature. Even though his way is unnatural, Mother Nature is an incredible force, and becoming aware of self is only the first step. Now we must operate and learn to operate in power. We must learn to have power and to be just with that power. There's a lot of corrupt Negroes out there that I wouldn't trust with any power, right? Because they're just too corrupt. They can't even hide it that they're so corrupt. So we got to teach our children to hold positions of power, to work with the people, hold positions of power, and to distribute um, equality, equity, and fairness, you know, according to each case, according to natural nature. Once we get back in natural nature in tune with the universe, we'll be fine. And I'm not saying some kumbaya stuff, you know what I'm saying? Like, we're by nature, we're warriors too. We didn't, our tribes fought against the Caucasian. We didn't just lay down and say, oh, we're slaves, because let me tell black people when they use the word slave means that you're not capable of thinking for yourself. Slave means you're not a human being. You don't have the rights of a human being. So you bow down to whoever is over you. So that, and in that case would be the Caucasian. So the Caucasian, when Martin Luther King was marching for civil rights, that's not human rights. And that's why Malcolm told him, why are you marching for civil rights? You should be going to the UN for human rights, right? Only a slave would march for civil rights. You're already a citizen by the Constitution. So slaves operate as you give a slave orders, and he or she does it. There's nothing else to be discussed. You know what I'm saying? No, you don't have any rights. You're a slave. What are you talking about? You know what I mean? And so when black people start looking at their history like, oh, we were slaves, that's very bad to look at yourself like that. The master teacher always told us to look at ourselves as if we were kidnapped. We are victims of a crime, right? We were abused, right? We're not slaves, because a slave would just accept his position. You know what I'm saying? We're not slaves. We're victims of kidnapping, extortion, rape, pillage. These are violations against human rights. You know what I mean? And so black people trying to get reparations, you probably won't get it, because again, black is a label. It's not even a race, it's just a label. You know what I mean? So when you start to look at these words, and black people got to really got to start doing research and stop emotionally reacting to everything. You know what I mean? Like how we talked earlier, like you're West Indian from Grenada. I'm a Cherokee. I don't even like saying Indian. Really a Niji or Cherokee Niji. So when we start saying these things, black people try to act like, oh, we're better than them. That this is the way that they look at it, right? We're better than them. No one's saying that we're better than you, brothers and sisters. What we're saying is we're coming back to the ways of our forefathers and claiming what we are. That's all we're doing. We're not saying we're better than you, because I hear Dominican brothers and sisters catch flack because they say, well, we're Dominican, we're not black. I've heard that. I'm like, well, if they feel like they're Dominican, you don't know what these people go through. You don't know how they were raised. You don't even speak Spanish, brother. So you don't know how they look at themselves in the mirror. You know what I mean? So respect that. Just respect the Dominican people and what they choose to call themselves, and you call them that too. You know what I'm saying? Because that's what they want to be called. It's called respect. You know what I'm saying? If I say you're from Grenada, you're West, then that's what you are. You know what I'm saying? You can't try to fit my perspective on how I look at so-called black people. You have to look at it the way you were raised, and you represent your culture to the best of your ability. You know what I mean? So black people getting mad at that stuff, I don't understand that. I can't understand that.
Well,
You know
it's
what I
divide.
mean?
It's always divide and conquer. It's always been divide and conquer, right? Men against women, and then they add
Yeah.
a whole bunch of extra fluffy shit. I, you know, I could wake up and be a man tomorrow. This man could wake up being a woman tomorrow. That makes sense, right? It's like, like I can kidding. You know what I'm saying? And so,
Yeah,
it,
that is funny, man.
and so what we grew up on was like, this it's so funny because my father was telling me like he said something. He was like, yeah, they think this guy's rich, but all he attracts is Chi Man. You know what I'm saying? Somebody was like, what's you think Chi Man is, right? And so it's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
it's what we grew up on. It's so much divide and conquer. For me, it's like it's a conversation, right? It's a conversation that you would have with someone who believes they are Black American, who sees themselves. They don't see themselves as. native to the land, but they don't know where they're from. So, you
Right.
need to
Yeah.
conversations. I mean, so I don't get upset when people are like, the Caribbean people are like the Mexicans. They come over here, they take a 3, 4. I don't get upset.
What?
It is.
I never
Yes.
heard that one before. Okay.
Of those, what was that thing with you could Clubhouse? I had to get rid of that because it
Club.
was just,
Okay.
yeah, it was a Clubhouse, and they were just, ooh, they was digging hard, and I was like, this is the conversation. Hey, we're not talking about how to free ourselves, but you have time to talk about other black nationalists. Other, do you get me saying? It's
Right.
like it's so
Yeah.
confusing
Yeah. Yeah.
to me because guess what? I know when white folks talk, they talk about us. They don't talk about them. Shit, the Irish just got on the census. What in the late 1900s? They weren't called. They just got Caucasian. You get what I'm
Right. Yeah.
saying?
They and Italians too. They just
They just
if
got it.
you watch that documentary I'm talking about, the drugs as weapons against us, that the CIA was formed by Anglo-Saxon, basically people who have power, the Anglo-Saxon English community. The English looked at the Irish worse than they looked at black people. And the Irish were the first slaves on Jamaica. They called them little green niggas. And the Italians, they thought Italians were less than human. They thought the North African Moors were of much better value than an Italian or Irish person. So the Irish, they're kind of they kind of hateful too. I met some cool Irish people though, but I have heard some racist Irish people too. But they also deny their history, also, because even to this day, the Irish and the English still go at it. Ireland and England still go at it. They still hate each other.
Hell yeah.
So
Hmm.
yeah,
And then
so I don't, you know,
that goes to show you what's going on in their bloodline. Now I once told this Italian lady. She said, her people were from Sicily, and I said, "Oh, you're part Ethiopian." She was like, "Excuse me?" I was like, "You I've never heard of that." Y'all ain't having that conversation as I look at your super afro. Do you get what I'm saying? Like her hair was just, I was just like,
right, right, right,
"Yeah, no. You don't think it's different that your hair doesn't lay down like some of the white do you get what I'm saying? No one has ever said
right,
to you,
exactly.
this is what happened. Cleopatra, all of them came over, took over, and started mixing and mating, and here y'all are, you know?
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, it's right next to. I mean, Sicily sits on the boot, right, right next to the Horn of Africa. So, I mean, even Hannibal went through Sicily to fight Rome, right? So, black people have been in Italy for thousands of years. That's no mystery. And Sicilians are known for being dark-skinned people, even to this day. So, I mean, some people, even some Latino Moors, kind of, they'll say, "Well, I'm Latino." I get that. You are Latino, no doubt, but you're also a Moreno. Oh no, no, I'm not Moreno. Just okay. See, I see. This is where the division kind of comes in. Like, what are we really talking about here? Like, Latino is a culture. It's a certain culture. It's not a race of people. Latino is not a race of people. It's a certain culture of people. Your race goes down to your genetics. So, okay, because you could have this little Spaniard-looking Caucasian girl, and then have a dark-skinned Morena, and they both call themselves Latinas, right? But one looks a hell of a lot different than the other one. So obviously, by Mother Nature, you're not of the same race. We can tell that just by looking at you. I don't have to be a genius, and I'm not trying to cause division. But what I'm trying to do is get you to be aware of your own self, right? So when I say that, I'm not trying to cause division. I'm just saying, look at the obvious, though. God created us in a certain way. And I wanted to address one thing you said earlier about, I don't think everybody comes from Africa, and I don't think everybody comes from us, right? I think we talked offline about this. It could be true, but I just don't think so. And the reason is, why do they look so different from us? Why they have the different blood type, different hair, different skin, different, if God created man in his own image, then God only has one image, unless God looked like everybody else at once. I mean, but I don't think that's true. So us as Nuwabians, we believe in like extraterrestrials and stuff. Like we think that beings came here, and certain beings came here and started different races. That's why if you look at the whole Hitler thing, he got his knowledge from the Thule Society, which was a like a witchcraft society that Madame Blavatsky and a lot of other wealthy Germans were part of, right? So they were building, they were getting messages from these beings that we call the Pleiadians. These Pleiadians, they would do some kind of like ritual where they would communicate with these Pleiadians, and they gave them the schematics to build a flying saucer, right? So when they got the schematics to build the flying saucer, they had a lot of wealthy philanthropists that were part of the secret society, but they couldn't get the flying saucer to work. So they saw Hitler. He was like a really like a social radical type of individual, and they saw him as the person that would take this flying saucer program to the next level using national funds. So they did. They gave Hitler a whole bunch of money to rise to power, right? And then of course, he turned on the Jews and all that stuff. That's another story. But that's where the whole idea of blonde hair, blue eyed people come from. That they're the superior ones because these Pleiadians that come from the star constellation Pleiades were sending communications to these people saying, you know, make this planet pure, right? And if you get deeper into our doctrine, you'll find out that uh, that some of our ascendancy, the people from the planet Risk, were at war with these people. So the war that we're having now, this goes back. This is off planet. This is the off planet war, right? Like the way we look at it, like God is an extraterrestrial, right? And I could talk weeks about this, but I won't get too deep into it. But people wonder why things are happening. Nothing is new under the sun. And if you read our scripture called the Holy Tablets, it will explain everything. You know what I mean? So these are stories that go back to ancient Sumeria, ancient Tamare, and even civilizations before that that kind of explain what I'm saying in so many words. You know what I mean?
So I wanted to ask you about this Spotify, the shows, the Spotify link, what that's about.
Oh, right, knowledge radio. That's about really the Nuwabian community, but the black or melanated people, period, especially here on Turtle Island, which they call America. Just dealing with issues like our psychological issues. I kind of deal with like there's a lot of the so-called Black Indians. They this is called the Black Indians Unite. I'll just put the name of the show out there, and I'll watch these shows, right? And some of the brothers, they're like, "See, we are Indians. See," and they're looking up these documents, and but I'm like, do you really need to look at all this stuff to convince yourself you're an Indian? I mean, I don't need to look at no documents. I need to listen to what my people told me before me, and that's it. That's it. I listen to my own bloodline, and that's it. I don't need to look at it's good to look at the pictures. Don't get me wrong; it can reinforce your cultural identity. One of my episodes is like, well, do you really need for white people to acknowledge you so you could feel good about being an Indian or wherever you're from? You need the white man to acknowledge you. That's how damaged psychologically you are. You still need these people in 2023 to acknowledge who you are so you could feel good about yourself. And I'm like, that's ridiculous. So I got my topics about stuff like that. I'm really a nerd with language. So another thing that really kind of bothers me is when you go to court, right? This is supposed to be an English speaking nation, but when you go to court, they start talking Latin on you. Brothers don't know what these Latin words mean, sestike, trust, and what's it called, new de novo, and like what is all this stuff? Unless you really study law, you're not gonna know what none of this stuff means. So that's another trick, from the Caucasian, so they can do I'm sorry, so they could do with you what they want to do with you, right? You're not going to understand the lingo that they're talking, and you have a right to say, "Hey, speak English." But a lot of people are scared to say that in court because, like I said, the person holding the gavel in the gown, they think this person is God. They really do. They really think that person is God, so they're afraid to say anything. Even though in the Constitution it says you have a right to for redress, you have a right to go to court to enforce your beliefs, but a lot of people won't do it. So I talk a lot about how to operate in society as uh, as someone trying to wake up. Scams. There's a lot of scams. I won't. It's not necessarily the Moorish Science Temple of America, but there's spin-off groups that kind of went away from the teachings of Noble Drew Ali and started their own thing, and it has nothing to do with the original teaching. So they'll try to charge you for ID cards. They'll try to charge you for writing paperwork. And a lot of this stuff is dangerous. They're telling people, "Oh, you don't have to have a driver's license because you're a Moor," and that's not true, man. You will get pulled over, and your car will get impounded, and you might go to jail. I mean, and then when people go to jail, they got no way of bailing them out. They don't even support them. They just take their money. So I talk about people and about things that when you're waking up, like I did about 9 years ago, be wary because the devil is still out there. You know what I mean? And we'll talk about economics, what it takes to build a nation. You need land, you need people, you need capital, you need you need to have your own cultural identity. You need to speak your own language. That you need to have your own dress. Like, I kind of dressed up for the show. My ex-wife made this. Thank you. There's certain things you need to have. You can't just be talking radical, like the new Black Panther Party, and have you got no culture to back it up. Culture is what keeps things together. It keeps bloodlines together. It keeps money uh, going for centuries. You know what I mean? It just keeps everything together, and that's a main reason why Black people can't keep it together because there's no unity in culture. You gotta have you gotta have that language and that tone that you speak. That if you're speaking in the devil's tongue like we are right now, because that's the first language that we learn, at least use that to try to unify your people and eventually get back to speaking your own language, as a second language or something. You know what I mean? But that's they call Black people the baby race because we're emotional about everything. We beg the white man for stuff, and he gives us a little bit, and we're happy with that. You know what I mean? Like, you want a place to live? Oh, we got the projects, you know, or you need a job, or you can come work for the government, man. My family is against working for the government. My dad, he said he'd kill himself before he ever worked for the government. You know what I mean? We always stayed private sector. We always built businesses, and we work for ourselves. I can't really see myself, especially and when you're 40. When Africans come here, I got a Tanzanian friend, right? He's from East Africa. He said they start teaching their kids business like at 9 years old. You know, how to count money, what to sell. That's why a lot of Africans come over here. They do well, because and they don't like Black Americans. Most of them do not like Black Americans. They say that they're ghetto, and they call them niggas. I've heard an African call a Black man a nigga, because they're not us. I mean, even though we're the same race, we do have a lot of genetic traits that we share. We are the same race, but we're tribal people. We're not of the same tribe. And I think if Black people, so-called Black people, understood this, they would understand the way the world looks at us, how we're being depicted on the television screen, because it's so important what images we put on that screen to show the world. You know what I mean? A lot of us as rappers, actors, we're not thinking about that stuff, man. We're thinking about getting that bag. We thinking about getting that money. We don't be like F this, F that, F these ends, you know what I'm saying? And I'm gonna get this bag, right? And then they hear people, their fans in the street calling them niggas. They made all this money, millions and millions of dollars, and still ain't got no respect amongst other people, you know? And then you hear some rappers saying, "Oh, I'm gonna stop saying the N word." Well, it's already too late. You didn't sold records. You know what I mean? It's too late. So these little Asians and white people and Mexicans and people who don't look like this calling you a nigga. You know, when I put out my music, I don't even cuss. Nonetheless, say the word nigga. I'm not gonna say that because I've said it plenty of times when I'm younger. Trust me. But I also grew up around a lot of other races. I know how they look at us. I know how they look at us. And it's not like they're trying. Some of them try to disrespect it, but others are like, "Oh, well, you guys say it all the time. I thought it was okay for me to say it too." Until you tell them, "Nah, it's not." And then they're like, "Oh, well, why do you guys say it then?" And that's a tough question to answer. And it's a tough answer to that question because I really don't have a good reason for it. I don't. I really don't. And I don't think any other so-called black person does either. So we just got to be more cognizant about how the world looks at us, our reputation as a people, and just getting to know yourself. You know what I mean?
Well, I did want to ask you for Right Knowledge Radio. Where can others find that?
We're actually distributed like on 10 different like podcast platforms. Hold on, let me name off some.
Okay.
If
And
I
you know
Okay,
what?
hold
If
on,
you
give
get
me
a
one
chance, you
sec.
could
I'm
send me
looking.
so, so whenever we can post this show,
Okay,
that way
yeah,
people can look and
I could copy all the
click on it.
links. I know we're on Google. We're-
Okay.
Okay, okay. I know we're on Google Podcasts. Oh, it wants me to sign in again. We're on Google Podcasts. We're on Spotify. We're on Amazon Music, and I think okay. Besides those three, there's a whole bunch of other ones. Okay, hold on. Give me one second. So we're also on a platform called TuneIn. We're on Listen Notes, Pocket Cast, the Pod Chaser, Deezer, Stitcher, and I guess something called Geo7. But I'll give you the links to all this stuff
Awesome. Awesome
so
sauce.
people can catch us on their
I wanted,
favorite
I wanted
platform.
to remind the people that you do have your YouTube. And what is your YouTube name? It's
Oh, it's just Right Knowledge Radio. It's the same name.
okay. So give the brother a follow.
We got Holy Tabernacle Ministries too.
Okay, okay. So we'll put that link too, so everyone can follow. I will follow as well. Yeah, because I love what
Thank you.
you're spitting. As they say, I love what you're spitting. You said you do music. Where can people hear your music on SoundCloud?
Oh, SoundCloud. My name on SoundCloud is Senmut the Architect, and Senmut was the architect for the Queen Hatshepsut and Tamaray. So it's kind of like a metaphor for I'm building. I'm an architect. I'm building a culture. I'm building a mind state. I'm reconstructing the minds of our people. You know what I mean? I'm just trying to put a positive vibe, something that makes sense for us to grow as a people. Because I'm a hip hop fan. It's like Nas, Az. I like Snoop Dogg, Dr. Dre, of course, because they're from LA. But I most of my favorite MCs are from New York. Because I like wordplay, Rakim, Big Daddy Kane, Funky 4+1. I like the breakdancing, graffiti, and all that. You know what I mean? So I'm definitely a hip hopper and a music fan just in general. But my message is completely different from a majority of things that you're hearing on the radio now. So if you're into just kind of like wordplay, a strong message behind the music, then you like me. And I'm not one of these underground heads where I'm like scientifical, physical. I don't rap like that either. I still got a groove and a style to the way that I rap. So because I want people to feel what I'm saying. Um, So yeah, you can find me on SoundCloud under Senmut the Architect. That's SENMUT, and then and then Architect. You'll find me, and you'll see some of my. You'll find the 6 pointed star with the Ankh in the middle as part of our image, and then it'll be you'll see a character you've never seen before. It's actually an S in our language, and that stands for Senmut. And I put my cultural stamp on everything because my goal is to get people to ask questions, right? Like, damn, what does that mean, And then I could start building with them and letting them know, where I'm coming from, and why I do the things that I do, and then I could ask them, what are you about, where are you coming from, and then because I'll start talking about things that most people ask questions. An intelligent being will ask questions like, "Oh yeah, my grandma tells me I was Blackfoot," or I'm Narragansett, or I'm a Iroquois, or a Seminole, or Mardi Gras Indian. All these names that start popping up, and that leads to a bigger discussion, which is my goal. My goal is to get you to talk about these things, to bring it into manifestation.
Wow, that is beautiful.
That's
That
that.
is, it makes me
Yeah, because if you don't talk about it, think about it.
Mhm. Then you don't know nothing about it, right? You gotta talk about it. You have to give the history. The history in my head is there's a Siboney tribe, there's the Arawaks. The Arawaks kill off all the men and make up the Siboney
Hmm.
tribe, right? And so that's how we become, right? That's
Hmm.
when
Hmm.
when slavery was coming, there's a where I'm from, there's a hill, um, where a lot of the,
Okay.
native indigenous people just said, "Slavery is not for me." They just jumped to their deaths. So we
Right.
they
Right.
call it lovers leap, where families and then everybody kinda just hid.
Wow.
So, yeah, they knew slavery was not
Okay.
them. It was just like, "No, we're not doing this." There was
Yeah,
something
we're just not.
you ever seen the women with the muzzle? They had the women with the slaves with the muzzle on their face.
Yeah, I have seen that.
Do you know why they have them?
Yeah.
They said because they didn't want them to learn language.
No, I don't know.
They didn't want them to learn they didn't want them to always speak their language. They wanted them to lose it. But then also, these people that we come from were very powerful people with words, right? We talk about spells and grammar and all this stuff, and so there was this one thing I heard about in the island where a slave master would come to a certain area and the people would speak something. You need to drop dead. And he would drop dead the next day. So they started muzzling. They would
Oh,
actually speak their tongue, and their tongue was so powerful that whatever they said, we talk about
yes. Yes.
manifesting. Manifesting is, I tell people all the time, manifesting is not just saying it,
Absolutely.
feeling it, right? Feeling it. And so they felt what they were
Right.
feeling. I'm talking about, we come from magic. Melanin is
That's right.
magic. I
That's
don't care
right.
what anybody says, and I sound insane. And I wanted to play rapid fire with you, but guess what? We're already 2 hours in. But I want to invite you to come back because I do want to play rapid fire with you. Part two.
Okay. Oh, I would be more than honored to come back and be on the platform.
Yay.
Yeah, I just love talking to you, Sister Cindy. So I have no problem with that.
That's awesome. That was really awesome. And I thank you for
Yeah.
answering anyone's questions. And you know what I'm saying? I'm very like, if I know something, I'll say it, right? But if certain things are,
Yeah.
even when they talked about Ben York, I mean, no one would really know that's outside of that, right? To kind of give an answer. And I thank you for your
Right.
answer. I thank you for your just your whole output on everything. You're amazing. Tell them who you are again. Please tell them who you are.
No, no, no. You're amazing. You are the creator. You are the woman. You are the creator. You are amazing.
Well, no, I'm the womb. You have the seed. You know how that works. But
But creation happens in your womb. It don't happen in my womb.
no, no, it doesn't. But you have to plant, right? I am just the fertile ground. You just plant the seed and boom. You know what I'm saying? Yeah,
Okay, okay. Well, both of us then. Okay, both of us are
definitely,
gods.
definitely. Tell them your
Okay.
name and tell them where to find you, how to contact you.
You could contact me by phone at what's that number? 928. 685-2764. That's my Google Voice number. You could also contact me, CS, that's Charlie Sierra at UNNM.net. If you want to inquire about the nation, what we're doing, how you can join, or just inquiries in general, you can contact us there. The Holy Tabernacle Ministries, if you're interested in the scriptures, because we have translations of the five books of Moses, the Injil, which is the book of Revelations. We have the Holy Tehillim, which is the translation of the book of Psalms, all translated by Dr. York, the only black translations in the world. No other black man. That Dr. York said we need to translate our own scripture. So that's what he did for us. And if any other religions too, Zoroastrianism, Hinduism, or the Vedantic religion, if you got some knowledge you want to spread about that, you're welcome to be in the Holy Tabernacle Ministries too. You could email us at cs@holytabernacleministry.org. And if you just want to be on Right Knowledge Radio, you could also contact us at cs@unnm.net. And Right Knowledge Radio, if you want to build like a business, because I'm all about building Moorish businesses and connecting and helping each other out, or anything that's going to uplift our people, that's the show you want to be on. So yeah, so that's how to contact me, man, or us.
I thank you. I thank you. I thank you. This is on the wakeupradio.com. And sign up for otwtube.com. Uncensored free platform, costs nothing. Free for my people. Free for my people. Um, Also, this is the hour with Cindy Ashby. And I don't even want to call you a guest. You're gonna be my co-host soon. Tell them your name, brother. Tell them your name.
Mudhutha Herukayu.
Mudhutha. I love that name. You have to, what does that mean? I know we're about to come off, but what
Oh,
does that mean?
Mudhutha comes from the word Dahuth. Dahuth means knowledge, and then Mud would be one of knowledge. And then Herukayu means coming from the spiritual family of Heru. If you're familiar with the ancient Tamarian or Egyptian story, that Satuh, Asaru, and Aset. And Aset was Asaru's wife. Satuh was Asaru's brother. So, and Asaru was the king of Egypt. Satuh got jealous, and at a party, at a banquet inside the temple, it was customary for the pharaoh or the king to get a golden casket. So Satuh built a golden casket for the Afarut Asaru, and when Asaru got in, he basically chopped him up and threw the casket into the river into Syria. So so Heru wasn't born yet. So the story is Aset went to the king or the queen of Syria. The queen of Syria put in a good word with the king of Syria. King of Syria allowed the queen of Egypt to get the pieces. She put the pieces back together with his phallus out, which is his penis, and impregnated herself and bore Heru. Heru took revenge on Satuh and slayed him in battle. So, and Heru is also, there's a lot of different forms and manifestations of a Heru. He's also a bird. And the falcon bird was seen as very one of the greatest predators of the sky in ancient Egypt, because he could swoop down from miles up and come down at like 100 miles an hour and swoop up a fish from the sea. So Heru was looked at as like a supernatural being with incredible powers, and every Afarut or pharaoh would have a Heru name. So I chose to give myself the name Herukayu.
Beautiful. You know what? I know we're supposed to come off. Do you know about Gilgamesh? No, no, I'm just saying because I know that they
Gilgamesh.
had the whole thing in Iraq, and then they found his bones. And then that was one of the things in Hillary's thing was like, we need to know where he's at because they're trying to create, magic one day science.
Oh,
So that's one of the things they took from Iraq. That we think they were.
I didn't even know that.
Yes, they went and took Gilgamesh's. He's supposed to be eternal.
Uh,
He's supposed to be, but he didn't want to live. The story is he didn't want to live when his best friend died. Right? He figured, why am I immortal? Right? What's the meaning of life?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So no, they that's what they took.
Wow,
That's what they took from
that's
Iraq.
they were over there for a reason. It just wasn't the war. They were trying to find old like books and relics from antiquity. That's I did hear that too. And it makes sense because Iraq is a very old place where most of people don't know Iraq got a lot of black people.
Yeah.
There's a lot of black. We've been there for thousands of years, and we're being hated against over there too. So, and the Prophet Muhammad was black. The Quraysh is a black tribe. Even they're starting to admit that now in Saudi Arabia. So, just wanted to throw that in there.
I think, yeah, thank you. You guys are listening to onthewakeupradio.com. If you're listening, we're on YouTube right now, but um, there's a thing where you,
I don't
you can't curse on YouTube or they're not going to monetize you. Let me tell you something. When I made the people and the
know
hours, you know what they told me? We are
what.
financially castrating you. We don't like what you're saying. It's hate speech. You're talking too much. And so I just took all my stuff off and I put I keep this is probably 21 on here now, 21 items on the YouTube. But actually I just put it on OT.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know, I'm that
Yeah,
that black person
yeah,
that goes,
yeah.
"Oh, they don't want us to eat here. My grandmother can cook. We will eat there."
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, don't let them control you, you know what I mean? Take control of your voice and your platform. Absolutely. That's what everybody should be doing, you know what I mean?
No, that's the truth. That's the truth.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. We're gonna do a part 2. I appreciate you. Any last words before we're out?
Uh free Dr. York. Free Mumia Abdul Jamal, free Matulu Shakur, rest in peace Tupac, rest in peace Afeni Shakur, peace to the Black Panther Party and all anything and the baby cubs. I think they call them the Panther Cubs because they're also being hunted by the CIA and the FBI. And those are the children of like Fred Hampton, you know, Bobby Hemmett. Uh, what's the other brother's name? I forgot. But anyway, those are the children. Peace to them, man. Let God protect them and give them wisdom, and then that's it.
Appreciate you so much. Later, guys. Love y'all.